Right? Did I call it?
You did call it. Yep, we got a dog visit. Great.
There he is. Okay, well, thank you everyone who's here so far for joining us, and to whoever is watching this on a recording or pops in a little bit. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be a crash course. I decided that I'd take us out of kind of the 1 hour format for some of the things that I wanted to do and put it into a more condensed form and just make it quicker and easier. So Nora's going to keep me on track. I've got 30 minutes. I've taught this class before, and it's been like an hour and a little bit more of a discussion and that sort of thing. So I'm going to keep on track, and Nora will be sure to let me know if I'm rambling too much. um, but so I'm assuming most or all of us are in real estate, and in real estate, uh, it's something I think I didn't understand how the whole calendar thing worked and how much that impacted my life and business when I got started. And it's one of the things that I see a lot of agents struggling with. So this is one of the first things that I wanted to do a class in, and just see if I could help with a few things that have worked for me and I know have worked for other people. I should introduce myself too in case anybody doesn't know me. I'm Andy Harwood. I'm co-owner of the Vaz+Harwood team. And Nora is on our call. Hi, Nora. Nora is our director of operations. And the Vaz+Harwood Academy is just a series of free classes and crash courses that we're doing just to give back and share a little of what I know. If you find this useful, you can download the doc. We can send it to everybody too. You don't have to snap this necessarily. But if we have your email, we'll send it to you. So let's get into it here. I'm going to speak a lot from personal experience on how much I still struggle with this. Your day is really, really hard to get a handle on unless you're one of those, well, very different kind of people than me. So, I'm sure we all have things that come up that we're struggling with that knock us off course in terms of we think things are going to go a certain way, and then life has a way of taking its course, right? And I think one of the things when I first got into real estate that I was thinking was, I want all this freedom, right? And I owned another business before too, so I've been self-employed for a long time. But so many of us get into real estate because we want all this freedom, and being able to be, not live by somebody else's calendars and somebody else's rules. So that's the great thing about it. But the irony is, unless you do live by your calendar, well, a couple things could happen. One is that you end up living by everybody else's calendar. And I've done this firsthand too, many times, and still do occasionally. And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I think I teach a class on that. And it puts you always in reactive mode, right? You're always, instead of being proactive about getting the things done that are going to drive your business, you're always like juggling and fumbling things. And then it's, of course, we'll get more into this too, but it's also so much related to how much money you can make. So speaking of that, I think all of us, probably most of us have heard of kind of the 80-20 rule. There's really, a top few activities in any line of work that really generate the results, right? And in real estate, it's probably lead gen. I mean, it's hard to think of what would be different than that. So your lead generation activities and lead follow-up and appointment setting and all of that kind of thing, that's got to be your top 20%. And anything else that might fit in that category, that's a top business driver. And so the name of the game here is to figure out how to get that on your calendar and get it done every day and not let everything else trip you, because that's really where your money is made, right? Your money in real estate is made lead generating, lead follow-up, going on appointments with customers, negotiating offers, and just kind of staying in touch with your people. And everything else really is ancillary. It's not the main business driver. Um, One thing that helped me think about the importance of the calendar too is you have $1 per hour that you're making in any self-employed field. It can be hard to know. It's intangible, right? Nobody's paying you a certain amount per hour, but there is $1 per hour in terms of the work that you put in. And if you think about it in terms of that top 20%, the top 20% it should be quite high. It should be in the hundreds, I'm sure, at the very least. But it's easy math, right? Knowing your numbers. It's just your income divided by your hours worked. And so you could look at the top 20% of your activities. That might take you 20 hours a week or something like that. And you could look at the $1 per hour for that versus all of the rest of the time. But my point in this slide and this point here is, if you haven't done it, do it. Add up the money that you made last year and the time that you put in, and what was the top dollar producing activities, like lead generating and appointments, and you'd get a pretty good idea what your hourly rate is and what the value is. So this is a concept that helped me a lot, and I think this might have come from Stephen Covey. I could be wrong. It might be one of those other people. But there's, if you think about like a quadrant section of things that come at you, you can divide this into these four quadrants. So the left to right here is whether it's urgent or non-urgent, and then the top to bottom is it important or not important. And so there are things that are urgent and important, urgent or not urgent and important, urgent and not important, and not urgent and not important. And the first time I saw this, I was thinking, well, the urgent and important things that's obviously the number one quadrant. But when you actually start thinking about things that come your way during an average day, it'll actually kind of surprise you when you stop and think about it. So there are very, very few things that are actually urgent and important. These could be time-sensitive crises, clients that need an immediate callback. Most of the time, clients don't need an immediate callback, right? They can wait an hour, or it could wait until noon, or it could, as long as you get back today, right? Now, we all know that what the 5 alarm fires are. When we got to handle this now. We're going to break the calendar. We have to stop. We have to fix it, whatever. And that could be kids. I mean, it could be, somebody's sick at school. You got to go pick up your kid, whatever, urgent and important, right? The urgent and not important are the real. I think that's like the worst. Those the real-time vampires, because we've got a lot of notifications and things now, right? And they're urgent. They're always like, they're always poking at us. Like, look at me. I'm urgent, but not important. Or at least not that important. Like, maybe you could look at that at the end of the day or something like that. And then, of course, there's the not important and not urgent things that are just, whatever. And I'm not saying those aren't good to do. They could be relaxing. It could be important in a less important way. But where you make the money is the important stuff that's not urgent, right? Like lead generation. There's nothing that's really provoking you to do that. It's just something that you have to master your calendar, right? For having a time to do those things. And so, that's the whole point of this. The things that are, if it was urgent, you would do it because you'd have to. But the irony is it's not urgent, but it's very important. So that's where time blocking can be your best friend. And I struggled with this idea for so long because it's back to my point a few slides ago that I got into real estate so I could be my own boss and I could not have to live by a bunch of rules and not live rigidly and be flexible and all this kind of thing. So when people at Keller Williams and people in real estate were trying to tell me about time blocking, I was like, well, um, this doesn't seem like the freedom that I'm looking for. Um, but it actually is the key to your freedom. And I'm going to show you how I do it. And I do it in my own more loose system that fits me. I know people who are absolutely religious about it. I know one coach that I've heard, and his team, they when their team is lead generating, they shut off the printers in the copy machine so that nobody can do anything else for 3 hours. Now, I could never live like that. I think that's kind of extreme, but that might be, if that's what you need to get your your non-urgent and important stuff done. Maybe you've got to do some trick like that yourself too. But I'm going to show you what's worked for me because I'm a very, maybe the office looks neat here, but I'm a very messy person in terms of life and calendar. Nora can attest to this. There's always stuff coming up when you've got 3 kids, and I'll talk about more about this later and some strategies that I use and we use for the mess that comes at you in life. But I don't have a very simple existence um, in terms of nothing is going to come and mess up my day. There's always stuff coming to mess up my day. So if you're anything like that, this is even more important. So I would encourage everyone to make a time blocking calendar. You can make it however you want to. If you're a paper calendar person, then you could get a blank paper or print it off. Use whatever, I'd say use whatever system that you've got that works for you. Don't use a different thing. So like if you use a weekly planner notebook, maybe get another one of those or take a blank page of it and write it out on there. I use a digital calendar for everything. If I used a paper calendar, I would be a mess, a total mess. So my main calendar is like Andy. And then I've got another calendar that is hidden, and I can just turn it on and off whenever I want to. And it's got appointments, slots on it. So this is it, or at least this is one of them. I designed this class a year ago, and I didn't want to update all these. It's not really important. What's not like the actual things might vary for you, and they will vary for you. But this just kind of gives you a glimpse of how I've structured things. So basically, there's like family things in the morning, and then there's the most important like things that I need to do. I actually don't do coaching calls on Tuesday anymore. This is old, but that's okay. That's something that needed to be time blocked. So there's like, whatever, going to the gym, things like that in the morning, your main things, the main top 20% that you need to do, and leave room for appointments. So this is my advice and what's worked for me on that topic. To go further on that topic, I think you should put down all the personal stuff that's non-negotiable. It helped me a lot when I realized that I needed to put down the stuff for kids, like the things I've got to do, right? Like I've got to get the kids to school, I've got to do lessons, I've got to do whatever. Put those down first, because you're going to have to work around that. You're not going to schedule over that with appointments or anything else. This is something that, Sherilyn, you should chime in. You need to schedule your fun. You need to schedule date nights. I know we don't do enough of it, but we
Sched-
we need to
Schedule
do
your
more.
vacations. If
Yeah.
you can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Schedule your vacations, because when you schedule your vacations, that also works with your budget. So when you're talking to your accountant or your budget or whatever you do, put all those dates down first, and anything in it. So This is going to help you greatly with your personal health, mental health, personal relationships, and your everyday kid stuff. Thank you.
And I'll just add, Sherilyn has you've got a big need to travel, like that's really important to you, and so you haven't done enough traveling. And one of the realizations that we both had was that you just got to put these down, just literally put the trips down, buy the plane ticket, put it on the calendar first, and then we'll figure out work around that. So if you do these two things first, you're going to be a much happier, sane person. But it took me a long time, years, to realize that you've got to schedule fun, because I used to just be able to do fun whenever I wanted to. So, and now, if with the kids getting older and business getting more, more intense, and responsibilities going up, you might not get any time for yourself if you don't put it down first.
Um, one of the things you always, and coming back to mental health, that's always the fun part of it. You always feel kind of shame and guilt and all. I know it sounds very irrational, and also the spending of money depending on your financial background. If you, in my case, I grew up very poor in India, so even scheduling time to go on a vacation, etc., that's like, oh my god, I'm wasting money. So it took me a long time and Andrew a long time for us to say, oh no, this is critical, because we have very young kids, and young kids don't stay young for long. Before we knew it, they're teenagers right now, and if you're if, and they're my kids are Americans, so at the age of 18, they've already made plans to get out. So my point is, schedule that in, because I don't know what you can call it, whatever you want, vacation time, self love, whatever. But ultimately, when you have it down on your calendar, it gives you a reason to look forward to something fun psychologically. And it also gives, and also because real estate is so stressful and there's so much coming at us so quickly. It gives you a reason for why you're doing what you're doing. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so then after that, I would put that top 20% down on your calendar. It can look however you want it. You can call it lead gen time. You can call it. When I was designing this, I was thinking a lot about content creation being important for social media. So I was focused on that, and I still am to a large degree. So anyway, whatever your top 20% is, put that in the best time that you have available. Most people, I think, for most people, that's probably in the morning. There's a whole school of thought on mastering your morning, and I believe in that, but I don't believe that, like maybe some people do, that that's the key to it for everybody. Some people aren't morning people, or some people it just doesn't work well for them, and they work better at night or whatever. Be honest with yourself about what's your best quality time available. I wouldn't call myself a morning person, but I do know that between 9 and noon is my best time available, and it's probably all downhill from there. So, um, so I do schedule appointments mostly in the afternoon, and really appointments are not as difficult, I don't think, to go. I don't think that's as difficult. Like if we get an appointment, I can show up for that at 4 or 5 or even 6 o'clock, and I'm good. Like that's not going to stress me out or require me to use my best available time. I feel like I've got to get the stuff done in the morning for me. Now, again, maybe this is flipped for you. Maybe you do appointments in the morning. But if you're in real estate, you need to put those appointment slots down, guaranteed, because that's one of the things that you're going to have to do, right? So it's a good idea to, instead of, and this is where you can get into having control of your calendar as much as possible. And you can, if you know what the appointment slots are that you have right now at this period in your life, you can very easily offer, or your team, if you have somebody helping you, can know when you're available to offer people, Andy's available at 2:30, 4:30, and 5 o'clock, or whatever it is. Which of those would work for you? Now, what happens is, right, people don't, people will say, I'm not available at any of those times. So you might think to yourself, is it worth doing? It's totally worth doing, because most people probably will be. One, two, they'll realize that you're professional and you have a system, and it gives you the option to say, well, what could we look at next week or whatever. Now, if you don't want to miss a listing appointment or something like that, and you want to accommodate somebody on a Saturday or some other time that isn't one of your appointment slots, you can make an exception. Of course, you're the boss, right? But at least you started with something. You could say, I can squeeze you in on a late appointment. You're not available until 8 p.m. Sure, I'll do it. Okay, but you're in control, instead of just saying, um, uh, instead of asking them what times are good, then you're going to be at their mercy. So, um, when are you going to check email and return calls? Don't forget about this one. There should be some time in there. I can do that when I'm driving. I can walk and chew gum at the same time. Most of the time I can pick up the phone, or, hands free, whatever. Um, Email, I can do it between two kid pickups. Shouldn't take that long. It shouldn't take more than 15 or 20 minutes to go through your emails, especially if they're well filtered.
And
But I would
and
put something like that on your calendar.
and when he says he does this when he's driving, actually he means when he's parked and picking up the kids at the school parking lot. Okay, he's not
Yeah.
actually driving in this. No,
Well, that's
he's not driving and checking his phone. No, he's actually parked. He's already driven to the school, parked in this. Yes, Andrew, please.
thank you for clarifying.
Yes, you will scare everyone.
But that's a way that you can reclaim wasted time, just waiting for people, like, pickups or whatever it is in your life that you've got to do. You might be able to do something like that. Um, Try to leave some flex time. Don't pack appointments and things like that back to back. Leave at least an hour or an hour and a half between things if you can, because guaranteed there'll be traffic, or somebody will take longer or whatever, and you absolutely got to have some flex time. I have made the mistake of trying to, because I've seen people's calendars where it's slatted out to the 30 minutes. It's like so granular like that, and maybe that works for some people, and they're like a machine, running on that thing. And this tripped
I
me
put
for
mine
a
in
while.
chat, and mine is like that. But one thing I do when I have back-to-back blocks like that is I use the word or in my time block, right? So you saw Andy had kid pickup / email / return calls, right? So I have ors in mine. So mine is, work on marketing or work on projects, right? Because the or is like a mental break for yourself, right? Because you're like, oh, I had on my time block, I was going to do content creation, right? And you didn't do your content creation because something else came up that you needed to do. Just using a simple word like or when you're planning out your day is going to give you a lot more freedom and flexibility to be like, okay, I still was productive and I still accomplished things. So feel free to give yourself a little gimme with those sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And Nora, you're very different type of person than me, which is why you're so great at your job in operations. And I was going to say too, I felt a sense of failure when I looked at you'll get some things from, like Bold or Ignite or, other training kind of things, or you might read a book on, somebody who's talking about time management. And I felt like if I didn't block out my day to 15-minute increments, maybe I was just a colossal failure at this. But I think that doesn't have to. If you just like block in the life stuff, the time for fun, the top 20%, and if you're in real estate, the appointments, I think the rest will solve itself. You don't really have to it's that will take care of it. And if you're like Nora, schedule everything out. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about this already. What do we do when life comes at us? Because it does. It's well, I do live by this. I mean, if it's not on the calendar, I'll forget it, or I will, it just won't happen. Um, so yeah, so letting people know in your family, staff, whoever you're working with, what's going on and when you're available, that can help. It gives you some accountability. If you erase something, replace it. I think this is a good tip I got out of some trainings, some real estate related trainings. If there's something that is important and you okay, so your time block in the morning is gone, right? Because something happened. There was something truly urgent that you had to deal with, or you had to deal with something that came up in life. Or maybe you're just having a bad day, right? We can all do that too. Let's cut ourselves some slack, but that time should be recouped somewhere else. Like maybe we don't have appointments this afternoon. Okay, then it gets shifted down to there. It's got to be done. It's otherwise we're not going to be making any money or achieving the things we want to do. One thing that Nora, you've helped me a lot with this too, is just getting control of email. And I won't turn the rest of this into an email thing, but when your inbox is a mess, and I know mine bounces around sometimes, I try to clean it out every day. And I'm not perfect, but if you let your email box pile up, then it'll start feeling like a to-do list, and it's an absolutely terrible to-do list because those things are not sorted into any sort of urgency or importance. It can just be a real time waster. So one thing you can do is set up filters. This is where, Nora, you've helped me a lot, where the emails go into filters. So some of it's automatic. I don't say no to store coupons. I usually just say, sure, you can have my email address. And then when I get, something from the shoe carnival or whatever, I don't even see it. It just goes into a coupons thing, or, flight deals or, whatever. I got one for kids, school and kids. We've got one for showing time notifications, all that stuff. I don't have to look at that all the time. It can just get filtered into there. And then only the important things they need to do in the email is there. Script for clients. You can set expectations in advance at your listing and buyer consultations. Just tell them when you're available. Most people will respect it. A few won't, but they'll be the exceptions. Print it in your listing packet and make it clear to them that you're available. So what we do is we just let people know, buyers and sellers, we're never going to drop the ball on you. And I'll know if there's something urgent, like you're looking at a house or we're negotiating an offer or something like that. I'll be available when you need me, but everything else is going to be done during business hours. That's when I do appointments. That's when I do, our staff is on, all of that kind of thing. But if whatever your rules are, maybe you want to work until 10 p.m. It doesn't matter. You're the boss. But just let the clients know what you are going to do. Most people will respect it. Offer your times first. Don't ask them when they're available. Tell them when you're available. And plan ahead for weekends and holidays. We send out an email from our team saying something like, we are going to be enjoying Memorial Day weekend with our family. We hope you're doing the same. If you do have any urgent needs, feel free to call Andy. But we kind of just plant the idea in people's head that we're on vacation. So it helps a lot, right? when things are really, and I know we're at 11:30, so I'm gonna blow through the rest of this a little bit. If you want a day off, you can just tell clients that, so hey Andy, can I see, I've got 4 houses I want to see. When can we go? And I don't have to tell them necessarily that I'm not going to work on Sunday. You could say I'm going to take Sunday off, but you could just say I'm available Friday and Saturday. Here's the windows I'm available. Can we get these booked? And then most of the time that will work out. This is something I had to get more, just like, feeling like I didn't have to let everybody just flap me around everywhere, all the time. Using your email signature is nice too. You can put something like this in your emails all the time, saying that, and we have them in all our email signatures, that if emails received after 5 p.m. or over the weekend, it'll be returned the following business day. In practice, we often return them sooner, but if it's urgent, they can call. Personally, I like a call if it's urgent, because then I know somebody really needs to get a hold of me. So I tell people that too. If it's after hours, call me. Then I'll know it's important and you need to be talked to. I think I'm going to leave it on this too, just to wrap up here too. I think we've done pretty good with our kids, Sherilyn and I, if I do say so, but I would be lying if I didn't tell you, and I think anybody with kids can probably relate to this, that when you break your promises to your kids, it kind of sucks. And I've had a lot of times when I've just been working and I haven't felt like I've had the time for them. And kids can pick up on this, and they know it's kind of BS. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? Because work is important, and they know to respect that. But it's okay for kids to see you working, but it's also, if you've got a good handle on your calendar and time, you should be able to get your work done efficiently and not have to keep pushing them off all the time. So I'm always trying to do better about that.
Identify toxic work behaviors. Identifying toxic work behaviors as early as possible is critical, because time with your kids is really very, very little. And it's we started this business when our youngest was a baby and our oldest was 5, and suddenly we have an almost 14-year-old who's already talking about moving out. He was to go to MIT in Boston. He was to buy a condo, and it suddenly hit me that, oh, I actually had to make the very tough decision of not going to family reunion this year because his birthday is on February 19th. And I just said, oh my gosh, I can't miss his 14th birthday, because I won't be guaranteed any birthdays once his 18th birthday is over. And one other example I can share with you is, we had a client who was buying a house, and they wanted to buying a house literally. They looked at the house the day before Christmas Day, and they wanted to buy the house. But the day before Christmas Day is when we open stockings. And typically we open stockings at 5 o'clock. Imagine how sucky it was for us to have to tell them, guys, can we postpone opening the stockings because we're writing the purchase agreement and all that. We didn't have a team in place and all at that time. And so ultimately we ended up opening the stockings at 11 o'clock because the offer got accepted. We didn't think the offer would get accepted, but they were negotiating and all that went on. And finally we opened the stockings at 11 o'clock at night. And I always try to remember how patient our kids were on that day. But again, you do whatever works for you.
Well, this is everything I had to say. So feel free to, if anyone has any comments, thoughts, want to drop off.
I'd like to chime in if I could. I think that thank you very much, for the class, but I always use on my door, I have a welcome sign and I can flip it over that says time blocking on it. And people in the
idea.
office respect that. They,
Yeah.
you know, it works, I would say 92% of the time. But
Do you-
some people can't read, but there's, you know, and then there's other times where I sound rude, but you know, if I'm engaged in something and I have the time blocking up there, I just won't answer the door, and and they go away. That's where it's nice to have that little screen on your door so that people can't actually see that you're ignoring them. But I think that's a good approach as well, as far as keeping your calendar. And Nora, thank you. I like the word "or" in your program there, because it's nice to be, you know, I'm going to either be marketing, or I'm going to be making calls, or I'm going to be napping, whatever the case may be. But,
Totally. Yeah, we use that regularly because, you know, when we have a listing day is Thursday or Friday, right? But then when we don't have a listing, right, then I'm working on other marketing, right? So it's listing day or marketing. And then I'm like, okay, it's obvious what I'm doing today if we have a listing or not.
Yeah.
very good.
I tried so many times time blocking, but I always did it like I like what you said, Andy, that don't do it like 9:30, then 10 p.m. and then 10:30. You know, I feel so frustrated because I never did it that way. So I'm gonna try to do it this way.
Yeah, what I felt was a constant sense of failure, like, oh shoot, I'm off again. You know, so this isn't working.
So I always
You
say
just
this
give up.
doesn't work for me.
That's what I did. It doesn't work for me. And then I finally realized it's just get those few things down, and then be nice to yourself. Don't aim for perfection. Just have a template.
Thank you.
Good advice too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yanette, do you have a tip? You look like you were putting up your hand.
I'm
Yanette,
sorry?
You
What's
look
happening?
like you were putting up your hand. Do you have a tip to share or a story?
Oh, no, I was like in my phone, so maybe I was moving this, but thank you. I came late, so I missed most of the meeting.
We'll
But
share
I-
the recording, which I
Very
will
inter-
Yeah.
stop now as we're in Q&A.